Were you allowed child?
I was actually kind of pensive child, actually, yes. And so it's kind of, I was a war baby. I'm incredibly ugly. When I was born, my mother wouldn't nurse me because I looked like a toad. She looked... I was a Yorkshire lad and a war baby, and in Mexborough Montague Hospital, I can't nurse him. He looks so ugly, he looks like a toad. And so forth. And the woman in the next bed said, oh, well, she'd lost her baby. She said, I'll nurse him. And she nursed me. Many years later, when I was in Zed Carr's famous series, I was Fancy Smith. And we were rehearsing one day, and this old lady came forward and said, I've got a little walk-on in this, Zed Carr's, Brian. I'm Mrs. Brindley. I was the one who nursed you. So it was amazing, isn't it? There she was with a little dog she had. So I nursed you. And, of course, eventually, like all ugly babies, I eventually developed your hair colour. Yeah. And my eyes became... Wait till he opens his eyes, he'll be very pretty. And open my eye, because I look very handsome. Because I've always had immense sex appeal since, as you know.
So you're not pensive anymore, Brian,
no,
it's fair to say.
And so I became very pretty.
When did you find your va-va-voom? Was that acting?
I think I've always had... my voice never broke. I've always had a big voice, you know, so I could kind of terrify people and so forth. So when I was singing carols at Christmas, you know, and they wouldn't give you a penny when you'd done all the carols, I'd then shout insults down through the door. You miserable sods! There'll be no swearing. I've been instructed on this.
Yeah.
I'm not even going
to... I might have to give you a yellow card.
I know, a yellow... Oh, no!
Yes, just steady on.
Am I allowed to say midwife or district nurse?
Yes. But listen, I have to say, your stories are very fantastic and fantastical sometimes. So we thought we'd play a little game with you today.
Yes, indeed, that sounds lovely.
And this is called Life of Brian.
Yes.
All right.
The Life of Brian.
Now, we need the short version answers
very short,
to these.
very short.
OK. So... Is it true or false that you delivered a baby in Richmond Park?
Yes, in 1964, I was in Zed Carr's, running across the park. Woman waved to me in Italian, I'm having a baby, I'm having a baby. And I rushed across, because I was used to all that in the war years, babies. I hitched up her clothes. I said, press, breathe. Out came the head. I took my shirt off, a white shirt, put the baby in it, and then I nipped off the afterbirth and tied it in a knot and got rid of the afterbirth, and then I pressed her tummy for clots, and then I shouted for help. Help! Help! She's had a baby! Because I could have killed her with shock, couldn't I?
And is it true you bit the...
Well, an ambulance came along. An ambulance came along and she went off with the ambulance.
There, he says it's true. He says it's true.
True.
Right, I've got one here. Is it true or false you can actually remember being born?
I can, yes. I call that esoteric nonsense and so forth. But I remember I was born in ice and rocks around me, and I broke through, and there was my mother's face. I remember it absolutely clearly, yes. I have this extraordinary memory. I've always been blessed with this memory. You know, I remember the Manchester United team, I won't mention it now, of 1948. Or we played them at football and beat them 26-0. We were only little kids, you know. So I have always had this memory. But I remember that being born, yes.
So, is it true or false you knocked out Doctor Who?
It's true. Oh, dear. And I'm nice, darling. I'm lovely. You like me, don't you? You fancy me, don't you? Well, I fancy myself. No, in Doctor Who, it was Peter Capaldi. I was doing Tom Jones, and I was playing Squire Western, really like that. And Peter came towards me. We did this little fight sequence. We did it beautifully. Then they insisted in putting one more punch in. And I promise you, it's Peter's fault, isn't it, Peter? He put his head forward, because I was Yorkshire schoolboy boxing champion. He put his head forward too quickly, and wham! And oh, God, he's down, he's out. And then it was, I thought he got the death rattle. And they rushed him to hospital. But of course, he got all these pansy clothes on, so they thought he was a transvestite.
Just click here to watch more interviews with a whole range of famous faces. And click here to subscribe. It's free, so you'd be silly not to, really.
Training since, about 9:30.
What is your training then, Joe? Take us through this hard training.
My training regime is core strength exercises. Do you know what that is? I don't.